Hello and welcome to the Pharmacy Informatics Professor 2020 with your host, Dr. Armin Simonian. I'm often asked if the pharmacy informaticist also needs to be a computer programmer. And the answer to that is mostly no, but it's really yes and no. So yes, you need to understand programming principles and speak the language of the IT department, where the programmers are going to be helping you write applications and enhance the system to meet the needs of your pharmacy staff. You do not have to do the programming yourself, so you do not have to be a computer program, but understanding the concepts is very important. Now, I will say that I know of a few individuals who actually do coding or programming on EHR, and that is done with a language called SQL, Structured Query Language, or SQL. And this is a database program that's used to extract data to write reports, to build labels, and to write export rules, quite a few functions within our EHR. So knowing that language is very helpful for the pharmacy informaticist, but not essential. Today, what I want to do was go back in history and talk about some of the projects that I've been involved with, some or most where I did the coding, and then one where I did not do the coding. The IT department did that, but I was leading the project in terms of application design and implementation. Now, this was a different time, and so you'll see that the needs that I was meeting were kind of ancient, but hopefully if you're innovative and entrepreneur and thinking about where you might apply technologies to the medication use process, this might get you thinking on how to look for gaps within that med use process and the application of technologies, and maybe come up with a new system that you yourself will program or that you'll hire a programmer to do for you. So let me bring up a presentation and I will start talking about the projects that I've been involved with over the years, and hopefully this will help you, give you an idea of involvement with programming the pharmacy informaticist. So this was during my residency, where I wrote an application. It was an enhancement to our homegrown EHR system, and basically allowed nurses to type in a keyword of missed dose or refill and get that extra bottle of Mylanta, or get that extra atenolol dose that was missing in the cassette to give to the patient. And so the program would actually communicate to the pharmacy by printing a label in the pharmacy that a refill or was needed or a missed dose had occurred, and the pharmacist could follow up on that. After finishing my residency, I worked with two of my colleagues to write a pharmacokinetics program. This was written using Turbo Pascal, so the Pascal programming language, and we each took different parts of the system, screen design or mathematics, and we put it all together and wrote the system, which was in use for quite a while. I sold my interest in this company a long time ago, and since it's been converted to a Windows environment and is now marketed as Precise PK. But this was the initial program that started that, and it was a need at the time for pharmacokinetic dosing. At one of my first jobs as a pharmacy informaticist, there was a need for our pharmacy technology lab where they prepared bulk extemporaneous doses to be able to track those batches, assign lot numbers and expiration dates, print labels, and then make those preparations. So this was a need also programmed in Pascal. Investigational drugs can be a real challenge because not only do you have to identify the patient and the dose that was given as you do with traditional orders or prescriptions, but you also have to, for every single dose, make sure that you write down some identification numbers, the lot and expiration, and depending on the protocol of the research, could be a control drug or the treatment drug or a placebo. And if it's blinded, calling it drug A or B, making sure that the right patient gets the right dose according to the protocol at the right time. So there's a lot more documentation that occurs, and it's a lot more intense. And so at the time, there were a couple of institutions that got together These were institutions that were doing up to 100 research protocols at each site, and they needed to have a database program that could track all of these dispensings. And for that, I use something called DBase, which you can think of in modern terms as one of the predecessors to Microsoft Access. Again, using DBase, I wrote a site search program for a school of pharmacy where they were trying to match up students to rotations in their 4th year. So the students were entered, the rotations were entered, and then the blocks were entered, and then they matched up the students to rotation sites for a given block. I also wrote a program in DBase for a drug information service that wanted to track their calls and be able to refer back to them and search their call database to see which calls had come in, and if they could analyze the data to see what types of calls they were getting most and provide education to their hospital staffs and clients in terms of what types of calls were coming in. Before, the medication administration record was a core part of every EHR. I did write a program that was basically a standalone medication administration record printing program, so the pharmacist could record the medications onto a form, a pre-printed form, and then that could be distributed to the nursing areas for use as a medication administration record. At another hospital where I was working after my residency, but I was working as a clinical pharmacist, the time that I was still looking for a full-time pharmacy informatics job, we were typing labels by hand, and we were using a memory typewriter. And so we had to store all of that on a mag card, they called it, and then print out labels every day, and then retype labels as needed. And so I wrote a little program in Pascal to be able to track our patients and their IV orders, and then modify them, delete, and add new orders, and then print out batch labels as a separate application. And then this was the pizza board, commonly called claim check system, that was used in a couple of hospital-based outpatient pharmacies. And this was written in Pascal, and basically every time a patient came to the window to drop off their prescription, they received a claim check number. And then when that prescription was ready for pickup, the number would be shown on a scrolling board that showed all of the numbers that were ready for pickup, and then the patient could go get their prescription without constantly having to check and see if their prescription was ready, and also avoided the HIPAA issue of calling out names in front of a lot of other people. And so it was a very simple but useful system that was used for many years to allow patients to get their prescriptions filled in a timely manner by just checking on the board when they were ready. And then this is a program that was actually written by one of our IT programmers, but we were at a multi-hospital system, so as a pharmacy informaticist, and our 7 hospitals were all tracking their pharmacist interventions using different methods, using paper forms or Excel spreadsheets. And so we decided that we would write a intranet program and make it consistent so that all sites were using the same program, and we could share information and compare and contrast and do analytics on the type of interventions that our pharmacists were doing. So we save lives every day. We check on doses. We change doses. We convert from IV to PO. We save a lot of money. We save a lot of waste, and we save a lot of lives. But that often goes undocumented, so it's important to document our pharmacist activity. And this was done using the Cold Fusion programming language on our web. And so I worked with the programmer. I understood programming language and flow and logic. And so I was able to basically help with screen design and then dictate to the programmer exactly what the pharmacist needed in terms of workflow, documentation. Had to be quick and easy. They needed to be able to document it from any terminal within 1 minute, or if it was an extended intervention, within 2 minutes, and then be on their way. And so this was a very, very fruitful and interesting project where I did not actually know the language or have to do the programming, but I was able to be very involved with the design, build, testing, and implementation of the system. I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of, if you are a pharmacy informaticist and if you are interested in doing programming, there are opportunities to do that. You can do it as an entrepreneur. You can write new applications. You can be involved with writing reports and writing expert rules on your EHR. Or you can be an advisor to the IT programmers to let them know what the pharmacists need and get the job done. If this was helpful for you, please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll thank you for that. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay safe, look after the health of others, and I'll start working on more episodes, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Take care.